What's up guys, this is Scher talking, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, let's make a full review for the Romancing Festival Laura banner. Well, we have Laura as a damage dealer that can farm and use counter strategies. We have Henri as a risk damage dealer with pierce damage and sometimes slash. And also Iskandar, a good support unit for both offense defense and can fuel overdrive. Gosh, we're going to start talking about Laura. She gives the name to the banner, and well, she has now 120% STR. That's a good value. Could have been higher, but it's pretty close to the top. She does have okay endurance, low wheel, but high agility. They want you to use her as a farmer most of the time. That's why she needs to go fast. The other status don't matter as much. Now, she has a first passive called Deadly Insight. On the start of battle, she recovers 3 BP, and all of her attacks will become critical versus human, beastman, giant, and beasts. That means that you kind of have already some enemy types covered for all of your attacks. Then the second passive called Critical Assault 5, attack damage increases by 20%, and when she lands a critical attack, she recovers 5 BP. That's the evolution of the Column Darke style, because he will only get 3 BP when landing a critical attack. She's getting 5. It's like jumping 2 generations, and you already get 20% damage increase. That means that just attacking humans, beastmen, giants, and beasts without any critical weapon, you are getting 5 BP back. Then the last one is called Great Lethal Tension. Attack increases by 30%, and when landing a critical attack increases by another 30. Yeah, even if it says very large, it's different value. So you can reach as much as 80% damage increase, and you get BP back when landing critical attacks, right? So what about her skills? We have Sunder. This is a 3 BP attack with 8 power. That's just slash damage. You're not gonna use this skill much. This is just something that stays here if you don't have BP. The second one is called Burst Blade. This is a B power attack, but entry level of B power that costs 8 BP, and it's fast, and well, she can actually use this 3 times in a row if she's landing critical attacks, and the damage will be very high. You can just use it versus humans because they are also weak to slash, or you can craft critical weapons to land versus different enemies. Then the third attack is called White Flower Funeral. For 13 BP, you have this time a nuke AoE attack that has just slash damage again, and well, double S power. That's pretty high, and she can use this on turn 1, and she has a 37% chance to recover 5 BP. That means that if you are landing a critical attack, you are already getting 5 BP back. If you trigger this chance, you will get another 5. That means that on the next turn, you can use this attack again. That's interesting, still relies on a RNG value, but damage is high, double S power, and if you are landing critical attack, you get 20% increase even, so you are reaching 100 damage potential. It's just bad that you have to craft critical weapons for the character, and it's been a while since we got an event where you can craft critical weapons without wasting too much time. And even when you open with this attack, right after you can use Burst Blade if you land on a critical attack, because she will recover 5 and then 3 by the end of a turn, and she can keep using Burst Blade. So in some events where the enemies are strong on the first wave, she solos and she will still help versus the second wave. But she won't be able to solo events, just story mode. That's her design. Now, as for inheritance options, she benefits a lot if you have her UDX style that was released during UDX Silver banner, because she has this attack called Reckless Slash that is also 13 BP cost, but it's 4S damage. Also carries a 37% chance to trigger BP gain, this time 6 points, so you still have enough to use this attack again if you are landing a critical attack and if you are winning the RNG chance. 4S damage, right? Very nice, but we shall remember that this version of Laura that we just got don't have any damage reduction passive, so if you want to use it for hard challenges, you need lots of protection in order for her to survive. The second skill is also a good inheritance called Sea Wolf Fangs. This is a 9 BP skill, and it has double S power, with slash and pierce damage this time. Well, you don't even need to trigger this chance, that is 50% this time, to recover 4. And now she can inherit a counter skill from her Platinum style called Windmill. This is 9 BP, and it counters with double S power a single target. But every counter, if critical, will recover 5 BP. That means that actually if you counter just once, by the end of that turn you recover at least 8 BP. She will have enough BP to keep countering. This is also an evasive counter. That means that if the enemy uses way too many direct attacks, you're not going to take damage. But if the enemy has just a little few direct attacks and lots of indirect attacks, it's going to be too dangerous to use Laura on those situations. And if you have her first limited style, there is also this other skill called Rainbow Reflect. That is full AoE this time. It has B power, just pierce damage, and it's also evasive. And when she counters, well, every hit is again 5 EP. This skill is even cheaper. That means with just one counter, you will be able to keep using it forever. Just be careful with her sustain because she has very low defenses by not having damage reduction. Another AoE counter is Arpina. With her first UDX style, we have access to Torrent. That is an 8 power attack that enters an evasive counter stance, and then we'll counter with dual Torrents, that is Slash and Pierce. But you can use this skill with her second Global X style, because this one will recover BP by each hit and will also apply defense down. Arpina is easier to use because she has high protect tension, but she may still face some BP generation problems, while Laura will never face those. Now, as a single target counter, she competes with the latest 4 news because he counters with both Pierce and Cold, and he also has a buff to everyone's status every 3 turns and is much more strong defensively. Apart from that, he also negates all indirect damage. Another competitor for a single target counter is just Onlyon's banner. This final Emperor has an insane damage with use of Rising Dragon, and then he enters an evasive stance where he counters with Swooping Dragon. That is 4S damage and recovers HP by 1.4 thousand. That's almost unkillable, and Final Emperor does have defense capabilities that are very high, and it has a lot more problems with PP generation, but can still be enough to just keep using the skill forever. Another character with single target counter is the latest Shaw. If you have his tower style, that I still don't have, you can inherit Windmill, and he has a similar design where he gets BP back when landing weak attacks. Shaw damage will be a little weaker, but Shaw has at least intrinsic to try to reduce damage taken when he's not evading. Well, Laura is a strong damage dealer, but she is a little complicated. She wants to do very high damage with some risky skills, but relies on critical attacks, although she already has 4 different ones. If you craft weapons for her, she's gonna help you with farming, especially on story mode she can dominate. But for events, it's not as strong, she will only be an opener while helping out on the second wave. Sadly, we have way too many farmers recently, like Galahad. Galahad dominates Slash as well, and you, well, will not need to use Laura. If you care about speed, then okay, Laura is much faster, but if you don't care about speed, Galahad may attack 2 times, but the result's the same. He can carry 4 characters, and if you already have other counter attackers, you will not need Laura. Still, she receives an SS Plus grade by raw power, but she is another character that is easy to skip and will also be easily demoted in the future. The next character is Iskandar, and he is a support. That's why he has 111 endurance and will. Those are very good values. His STR is just 111 as well. His damage is not even important, and the other status won't matter too much, but agility is just okay. Now for passives, the first one is called World Guardian. On the start of a turn, he will recover HP by around 1000 at least, and will remove all the buffs applied to himself. Not that it matters, the buffs are not even that most problematic stuff. But by the end of a turn, if he is conscious, that means that he's alive, he will cleanse himself from all ailments. That is good. And if he's dead, he will just revive himself by medium effect. That will be around 1.2 thousand HP. So he just won't trigger this if he dies by poison. So he just wants to stay alive. Even if he dies, he will stay alive. The only problem is that if he dies too early on the turn and gets attacked too many times to lose LP. Then the second one is called Offensive and Defensive Inspiration 2. On the start of a turn, he will grant an attack and defense boost of 15% each. Even though it says different names here, large and medium, we check it on JP and that's just 15%. It's different than defense boost when used as an active skill. And he will also recover 2 BP by the end of a turn. Well, the defense boost is okay because remember that Scrum Guard decreases damage taken by 20%, but needs everyone to stay alive. He does not need everyone to stay alive, but it's just 15, a little less, but he has offensive as well. Then the last one is called Ancient Hero. When attacked, damage taken will be reduced by 30%, and also on the start of a turn, he will grant himself defense up. That increases his defenses by 15% and triggers 5 times per battle. He's barely gonna take any damage, but he also does not do damage at all. He only has his attack boost to do more damage himself. But, well, he's just here for support, right? The first skill is called Healing Light Blade, and it's free. When he attacks with both Slash and Sun, and just E-Power, he will recover very small effect of all allies. That should be around 220. That's not much, especially now that Global has so much powerful healers like Polka, Mirza, Muse, and even Katarina. But it's free, so nothing bad. Then the second skill is kinda his selling point, Daybreak Surge. He will recover 2 BP to the whole party, and then he will trigger Overdrive for everyone. That's right, he can only use this once. And the best time to use it's either on the start of a fight, or just after using one Overdrive, you just use it to use a secondary Overdrive. So we were expecting this to be changed for at least 2 usages or to add something else in the skill itself, because there is a character in the future called Labelle that will be able to use a similar skill, and she can recharge the usage by using her skill number 3, so eventually she can use again, but Iskandar doesn't. But now let's talk about skill number 3, that is actually awesome. This is a single target attack with triple S, Power, Slash and Sun. Damage is not important because he's not a damage dealer, but it applies this defensive stance indirect medium to all allies. This will decrease all indirect attacks damage by 25%. This lasts for 2 turns, as you can see here, and he will have enough BP to use this every 2 turns. That means that it's a perfect cycle that will reduce indirect damage, heal the party, and also keep applying that defense boost of minus 15% damage. So this type of shield is actually very similar to the shield that we got first with tank version of Gustav and Steel Dominance. Steel Dominance decreases spell damage by 35%, and Gustav has Scrum Guard. So the overall decreasing damage is higher, and both characters are not good attacking anyway. But indirect attacks covers much more ground. All spells are already indirect, and some physical attacks will also be indirect. So you will likely cover around 60 to 70% of the skills in the game. But you have to remember that another competitor is Katarina. Katarina has this skill that is called Ice Fog's Ballet. She also decreases damage by 35% for skills, not spells. So it's similar to Gustave, but for a different direction. There is also Tsubaki that can do similar, but her case is a passive that decreases spell damage by 25%. So they are all designed similarly, but they can do different stuff. Katarina is similar to Iskandar because she can also heal the party with Ice Fog's Ballet and also with Ice Impact, but she does not give that damage reduction for all other types. But 25 plus 15 versus 35 is not much of a problem. Katarina still heals more than Iskandar, but she does not survive as much, and she does not have the gimmick with Overdrive. Now, the other character that is still a competitor is actually another combo of Gustav. If you have the tank version of Gustav, but also Let's Paint, you have many different buffs with your tank Gustav that starts with that 20% damage reduction by Scrum Guard. Then by turn 3, he will trigger Guard Up, decreasing by 25. Just here, you already cover more than Iskandar can, and it's for all types of damage. On turn 1, Gustav also triggers a defense boost that decreases damage taken by 15%. He also gives morale up, he also gives VP, he also buffs endurance. So if you have this Gustave, you don't need to go for Iskandar, because Iskandar only has that Overdrive gimmick and it's just once, it's not important. And the other character that works super well is the latest version of Empress, but I did not summon for her, so I cannot show you. But if you have the latest Empress, and if you have that Christmas style with the Christmas Moon skill, she will have minus 10% from all sorts of damage, then she will decrease damage by 25 by morale down, and then by another 25 with Christmas Moon. So it's a 3-layer defense. And another character that also works similarly is the latest version of Undine, that decreases 25 and then 25 again. So I think if you have any of the characters I mentioned, they work similarly and they will be fighting for the same slot. So if you're happy with any of those, skipping Iskandar is easy. Still, there is one good thing about Iskandar. All characters I mentioned need inheritance, save for Undine, that works as she is. Iskandar also works as he is, so it's a lower investment in order to get similar results. But the problem is the banner. If you are only after Iskandar, the value is still kinda low. But I recognize the utility of the character and he will get a triple S grade in our tier list. Now moving to the last character, we have Henri, and he is a damage dealer with some gimmick about damage block. So we have 119 dexterity, not the highest but good enough. We have very good will, almost 100 with just 97. Endurance with 85, it's okay. And agility is 115%. That's more than enough. The other status won't matter as much. Now for passive, the first one is called Prince Resolve. When his HP is full, his damage increases by 30%. When HP is full, that's already strange, right? And on start of battle, he will grant himself damage block 5 times. So 5 hits that goes after Henri will be fully negated. And then, when landing an attack that is not a spell, well, he does not use his spells anyway, Healing Pierce has a 37% chance to trigger. Healing Pierce is a C power attack that heals HP by around 1000. So, it's nice because you keep healing if you take damage, since he does not have damage reduction. I'll explain more about this later. But since it's only 37% chance, it's not reliable, just an extra when it triggers. The second one is called Hidden Lead 2. Starts the fight with 12 BP, and if by the end of a turn no damage is taken, recovers 3 BP. This is nice for when you are farming because you will not take damage, so you get 3 BP extra on every turn. And on boss fights, you probably not take damage for the first 2 turns, and then he also has chances of not taking more damage because of passive number 3, called Will of Escata. Attack increases by 30%, and if his HP is full, attack increases by another 15%. When he is landing an attack, he has a 50% chance to trigger a damage block. So, what happens here? He wants to stay on full HP because of the damage blocks. If he's not taking damage, he is on full HP, and sometimes he will even heal if he took some damage in some turns. But it's never a guarantee. You can still trigger that damage block when you are using Healing Pierce, but, well, this is not even a guarantee, only 50% chance. So, the character can survive well by self-healing and blocking damage, but he does not have damage reduction, so bad things can happen and he may just die instantly. Unless you have lots of layers of defense, he's still gonna take more damage than the rest of the party. You should also remember that 45% of the damage passives are related to being on full HP. If he's not, he's losing power. He only has 30%, at least all times. Now, for skills, the first one is called Skillet Stab. This is a free attack with deep power that deals pierce damage and buffs dexterity by up to 30% on max rank. For free, awesome. Then the second one, called Drive Stinger. This is a full AoE attack that costs 8 PP and attacks with both pierce and slash damage. B power, so you could say that it can solo story stages because he regains BP, but it's just made for that. The third one is called Penetrate Burst. This is a 12 BP skill that this time has triple S power, and it will grant the user morale up very large, that is 40% damage increase before he attacks. That will look like a 4S attack for you. So his cycle will be to open the fight with his attack. He has 12 BP when he starts, then he buffs his dexterity. So his main gameplay is to open the fight with Penetrable Burst, and then after that he will just use Skillet Stab, and if he did not take damage, he recovers 6 BP. And by the turn 3, he will have enough BP to use Penetrable Burst again. So he is keeping a cycle of good damage and self-buff. But the moment a boss attacks him too many times and he loses his damage block, he loses his full HP capabilities, he will take lots of damage and will easily die. So his design is kind of limited and very risky. He's not doing more damage for Slash than Leon, than Mirza, than Saruin. He can only compete in the Pierce department, and even then he's weaker than Chooser, for example. So I believe that his damage potential will matter more on Remembrance, where you have to bring Rapier users, and he's one of the best ones. And he is an evolution of Kid Mikhail gameplay mechanic, where he will also be able to self-heal, but he was even more risky than Henri. As for inheritance, we got a version of Henri on the chapter 10 from Leon. He can actually open with Noble Cross Plus, that's a fully re-attack with A power, that deals respectable damage and adds Sun element, and he can just keep using his second skill, that is just pierce damage, but B power. The mod from his second skill is actually 27, that's pretty close to A power, much like the recent Leon has B power as well. And he can also just inherit Healing Pierce to use it if he needs to be healed back to full HP and he didn't trigger it passively. Then there is Roundabout, that is a 6 BP double S power attack, that it's just something that you can use on Overdrive if you didn't store enough BP, but well, this guy here will only be useful if you can keep up with the damage blocks anyway, and if you can keep up with the damage blocks, his nuke is much better. Now, for my final words on Henri, he works well for story farming, can solo some stages, but he is too risky to use on real challenges. I guess he works well on Remembrance, but that's because there you only need to clear once, and the challenge is just the same, you get used to, and you can restart to redo it. But other damage dealers for Pierce and Slash are easier to use and more common. Henri will still receive an SS Plus grade because of raw power and the ability to work, but since he is too gimmick, his time will come fast and you'll get damage dealers that are easier to use. Now back to the banner image, is this banner worth summoning for? In my opinion, no. I will be giving this a bronze award, and you should only pull here if you are a fan of the characters, or if you miss it out in any support units like I said. Right now we have Christmas Empress banner, and she works super well. If you have her Christmas style, she gets super close to tank Gustav with Let's Paint. If you do not have the Christmas style, then okay, I think Iskandar and Empress will have similar values, more about preference than anything. But you have Laura and Henri here, and they are not really that good. Although you can use both for farming, their potential on boss fights is very limited, and they will kind of work for their respective remembrances, but there's just one other options as well. So Laura with Inheritance is okay, you can use her for farming and for counter. Henri is just more for those that don't have a good damage dealer for members, because he's never going to take the place of a nuker for real challenges. That limits the value of the banner and actually leads to be a very skippable one. For newcomers and for veterans, I would not recommend pulling here, and I decided to skip. But again, if you want a support unit that is reliable, just not what we were expecting, Iskandar can work for you. But that's my opinion. What is yours? Please see here in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please subscribe if you haven't, and I hope to see you soon in the next video. Bye!